over to you, Sanisha. I'll let you introduce yourself and take us on a journey with you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. I do a lot in my working life on diversity and inclusion and supporting others to be included in the workplace and within their communities. But I'm here today to talk to you about BPD and how it affects me and what my story is. When I was diagnosed 4 years ago with mixed anxiety and depressive disorder and borderline personality disorder. And I was really shocked because I thought I have a degree, I have many friends, I've succeeded in life. But that's where I sort of split, because I'm not actually looking at the real part of me. I'm looking at me as at a superficial place. And when I read the symptoms of my disorder, and of both of them, and I reflected on how I behave, it all started to make sense. A key symptom of BPD is having a low sense of self, a tendency to view things in extremes and seeing things as all good or all bad. And if you Google the symptoms, I meet them all. At 28, I still feel like now I don't know myself, and all I really know is my trauma. And I know I will never really feel safe enough to be myself. So a bit of background on me. I was born in South London and raised, and my mum was 17 when she had me. And she was very young, but she was very determined to do her best as a single parent. She had been raised by two schizophrenic parents, which of course impacted her way of raising me. She was cold. We didn't talk about feelings. And I remember at 18, I wrote a poem titled "My Mother Never Hugs Me." And when she read it, she felt so upset and she displayed this upset that I didn't understand, because we weren't like that. I saw my mum more as my sister. I felt like I was the parent a lot of the time in my childhood, and I was her rock, whereas she wasn't mine. My dad is a complete narcissist. He told me and continues to tell me he never wanted me. As a child, I was told if I was a boy, he would love me. But because I was a girl and because I'm a woman, he can't. And so my identity felt dismissed at a very young age. When I was 7, my mum was a victim of domestic violence, and we moved into a refuge, and we moved from the inner city London to the outskirts of London, and we lived in a large house with loads of different families, all going through very similar situations. Oh, sorry, somebody typing, it's kind of funny.
Sorry, if you're not talking, could you please be on mute?
Sorry, hang on a second, it's just distracting me. As one of the things with BPD, I can't concentrate on things anymore. But sorry, thank you for putting yourself on mute. It's just, yeah, my mind was listening to you versus actually trying to get the words out, and I'm trying to be as articulate as I can be. Yeah, we were in a refuge, and we were living with loads of different families, and I shared a small bed with my sisters for about 8 months. I went from a very diverse school with multiracial students to a school where I was the only black girl in my class, and I didn't want to start a new school and talk about the fact that I was homeless. So I kept a lot of my emotions internalized. I kept a lot of what I was going through at home, or what I'd seen or experienced from my teachers, from other students. And I just was very quiet and very afraid of being myself. I really just wanted to blend in. I started to have an identity crisis from then, I feel. And when I say identity crisis, I didn't want to be black. I didn't want to be myself. I didn't feel comfortable with my identity. Also, at the same time, I was experiencing child sexual abuse. And so from 8 years old, my body was being violated by a family member, and I didn't feel safe enough to tell anyone. And I kept many of my emotions internalized, and I didn't want to be me anymore. I went to an all-girls school, and it was very clear from like the young age I was that like a lot of students who were Black were considered louder. We were treated unfairly, and like our natural hair was criticized to the point that the majority of us straightened it chemically just to kind of either fit in or just feel more palatable to the people around us, who were mainly white. And a lot of us were going through sort of issues at home. I went to school from 2004, when I say school, high school, 2004 to 2009. And so I started just after Section 28 ended. And Section 28 basically was a piece of legislation that banned the conversations about same-sex relationships in schools. And it really created a dark era where bullying was allowed to flourish, and young LGBT people were sort of left, well, definitely left to suffer in silence. And the law was repealed in the whole of the United Kingdom in 2003. But even though that was just before I started high school, I don't ever remember being taught about anything other than heterosexual relationships. It was, and that's the impact that the law had. But even though it just been repealed, the conversations weren't happening. And I felt like I didn't understand what sort of emotions I was going through. I didn't understand why I was starting to like other people. I just knew that I felt attracted to people regardless of what their gender was. One of my friends came out as bisexual, and her life was turned upside down. She was bullied, she was kicked out of her family home, and her family, like mine, were Jamaican. And we were used to hearing homophobic language used by family members, friends, or in music that was blasted out in parties. It was normalized to the point that I internalized homophobia towards myself. I witnessed how hard my friend had it, and even though she was so brave, I couldn't do it, and I pushed my feelings to the side, and I sort of hoped they would go away. And I always felt hiding my sexuality was a lot easier than hiding my race, and due to what I'd experienced being a young child in a new school where I felt so visible, I felt like I had to sort of fit in and camouflage myself to create a new identity to be liked. And I did that again in my later years when I was trying to hide my bisexuality. And when I did attempt to come out, I was told I was being attention seeking. My sexuality was fetishized. Are you going to have a threesome with me? I was questioned. I felt inauthentic, and I felt a chronic feeling of emptiness. At 15, my stepdad, the father of my brothers, tried to sexually assault me. And this man had raised me from 10 years old, and he had tried to harm me. And I'd questioned, why me? Why is this happening again? Why is my body being abused and not respected? Why do I not deserve to be treated with love? Am I unlovable? Our family moved again, and there was more displacement, more trauma. I feel, and I still feel, this guilt, this huge guilt, this anger that now my brothers don't have a dad. And I did blame myself a lot, even though I know I didn't do anything to deserve that behavior. Deep down, I know that, and I have to constantly remind myself of that. My anxiety increased when I socialized, and I started to have frequent panic attacks. I started to harm myself until I was bruised. I was wanting to take my life. And my mental health continued to decline dramatically throughout my early 20s. And I was always a gifted and talented student, they called us. So I felt like I found the only purpose I had was being in school or achieving something at school or university. And once I'd finished my degree, it was a lot harder for me to sort of receive gratification through my achievements. And my mental health journey continues to be quite a difficult one. I remember initially asking for help during a depressive episode and being told by a doctor, "You're a strong Black woman, why don't you try praying more?" Although I'm a Christian, it was inappropriate. I felt dismissed and challenged that the reason I was mentally suffering was due to my lack of prayer or my poor relationship with God, and it further exacerbated my symptoms. I started to see everything as black and white, all bad and not good, or all good. And my mood swings would swing from one side to the other. One moment I was happy, one moment I was sad. And sometimes I can't relate to this woman that I am with trauma. but then sometimes all I am is this weak woman who men rape. I split on people. So I idolize people until I feel they've crossed me, and then I can't be around them anymore because I'm afraid of people. I have a huge fear of others. I have a huge fear of letting people really into my life. I made multiple attempts on my life, and I'm wrapping up here, but I made multiple attempts on my life because I didn't want to be here, and living with the secrets of child sexual abuse, the secret of being a bisexual. I felt like a fraud in every space. And I was plagued with such hateful thoughts. I didn't want to live past 25. I didn't think I would. I started experiencing, and I still do experience psychosis, which some of the symptoms that I experience, it's very triggering, it's very impactful. So just a few weeks ago, I dropped a glass on the floor, and I saw myself dragging this shard of glass across my throat, and then my throat opening up and gushing with blood. And I'm really sorry to be so vivid, but I want you to understand, with BPD, it's like your mind is constantly plagued with horrible thoughts, horrible emotions, horrible traumas when you're in that bad space. When you're in a good space, sometimes, you know, I can't relate to it, but it's horrible. It's horrific, and I'm reliving the childhood trauma daily because I see that image of that child being abused all the time. And I say that child because I can't say it's me, because if I say it's me and I see it's me, it hurts me too much. But I have received psychotherapy, and that's why I'm able to do events like today. That's why I'm able to talk about what I've experienced, because I've confronted my trauma. I've acknowledged it exists. The secret is no longer the secret anymore. And I'm still living at 28, which doesn't seem huge to others, but for me, I've beaten my own life expectancy. I didn't expect to be here. So there is a lot of stigma around BPD, and a lot needs to change. And I hope we can all continue to do our part to encourage the conversations within our own communities. I want the Black community to speak more about mental health and the impact it has on the families. And I want every community to feel like they can talk about what they're going through. So thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope I haven't talked off your ear, but I appreciate the time and the space to share my story with you.
Thank you, Sanisha. Thank you so much for sharing it so candidly. And, you know, I totally understand, but, you know, I just want to say on behalf of everyone, we are all grateful that you're here today and you shared your story. And I know it's really hard, but you have empowered so many people. I saw so many hearts, so many nods going on. And, you know, I've put your Twitter handle if people want to connect with you and keep getting inspired. I'm sure you will see a lot of people coming your way now. So thank you so much for everything you do, Sanisha.